And we are live. What's up, you guys? Today we're going to be talking about, is work life balance possible? Is there such a thing? And with me today, I have a special guest who was so kind to jump up on here to have this conversation where we've been having this conversation on Facebook and we just decided to take it live. So, y'all are going to be a part of a conversation that I'm really excited about because this person is legit one of my low key favorite people that we've never talked in person, but here we go because her insight is just so cool, and I love it. So, Carlin, what is up?
What is up? Thank you. That is that is one of the most flattering things I've ever heard. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Seriously, because here's the thing, I feel like we always have a meeting of the minds on Facebook where we go deep, we talk, we write paragraphs to each other a lot of times, And so that has kind of gotten you, you got followers, and there's some followers who you classify as like, okay, all right, they always got something to say, but it's just like, okay. But when people like yourself comment, I I literally sometimes, if I'm listening to something, I'm like, okay, pause. I'm gonna need my intellect
Yeah.
to be able to respond to this person, and that's who you are. And so the conversation we've been having on a post, is work-life balance possible? And you had thoughts of your own. So I want for you to share your thoughts.
It's I actually have very specific feelings about this topic
Yeah.
in general because it's something that comes up and I feel like a lot of it is specifically evolved around W-2s and parenthood, which is where I've kind of
Mm.
evolved this opinion. Because I mean, as you saw before we went live, I had one of my kids running in and out, and he just loves talking to people. He's the kid that I have to put a bell and a flag on to keep track
Mm.
of.
Hmm.
And he's just one of four. So having four kids, you kind of realize that um, it's a lot of juggling, especially in entrepreneurship when a lot of your time has to be dedicated to one specific thing. And of course,
Hmm.
family is a whole specific thing. And inside the family, you have smaller buckets. And so I started evolving this idea because I remember asking one of my good friends, Jesse Stanton. I remember when I first got into entrepreneurship, I was like, I just had this mental breakdown, and I called him, and I was in full hysterics. I was like, Jesse, how do you balance this?
Hmm.
And it was just one of the most profound thoughts. And since then, I've continued evolving it. He said, Carlin, you can't balance it. And I was like, well, what do I do then? He's like, you work with it. And so you dig a little bit into history. My mom has taught me a lot of these concepts as well, is like harmonizing things and learning how to be at peace with situations. And when I think of being at peace, I think of harmony, and a lot of that has come into my personal relationships, my friendships, my relationship with my kids, my business. It all comes together. And so that's where a lot of that structure formed, was that conversation with Jesse and the background of my mother. And really just, three and a half ish years into it, you spend a lot of time processing something like that because I mean, you just had a baby, but you do literally a lot of juggling. I've seen you post things where you're literally holding your baby while you're doing something.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting thing, and I think it's if people need to hear that balance is not what I would consider this. I would consider it harmony. I would consider it a symbiotic relationship. So you feed one, it feeds you back.
Got it. And I am so on board and love the depth and the level of thought you've put into this. Like, I really, really love the level of thought because this is something that I think about a whole lot. And harmony is a word that I've used over and over and over. Like, you want to be in harmony with all these things. But I've gotten back to the word balance recently simply
Mhm.
because, like you said in our Facebook post, balance seems to have more of a mathematical relationship with it, and and that's hard, right? It's kind of what I got from what you
Mhm.
said. And when it comes to harmony, and I want to ask questions before I get into my concepts or thoughts. When it comes to harmony, how would harmony work? Because I still hear math in harmony, which is why I'm like, hey, I got so many more questions. I still hear math in harmony. So are you able to share how, even when harmonizing, which in my interpretation, it's two things living together, ebbs and flows, like that type of
Mhm.
thing, it still sounds like somebody is compromising.
I do think someone is compromising. In any given situation, there will be compromise, and that's where communication comes into play. Like just now, right before I jumped onto this podcast or this live or whatever I'm doing right now, um, right before I jumped in, it was very spur of the moment. So I walked in. Thank goodness my husband is home right now. I walked in and I said, "Hey, the kids need to do their homework. Oakley needs to do this. Axton needs to get up from his nap, X, Y, and Z. I am going to be getting on a podcast. So if you could help me with this, and this, I would greatly appreciate it." So it's harmony comes in tandem, I guess, like this with communication. Because when you think balance, balance would be, in my opinion, walking in the door and saying, okay, I've committed this amount of time to business today. Now I need to commit this amount of time to kids. And so there's like this scale. And when you put weight on one side of the scale, the other side goes up. And when you think balance, in the literal definition is equal. And you, in especially in where we are at the day and age, you really can't have equal without compromising one side or the other. Like it well, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
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 you end up compromising one point or another. So it's, in my opinion, harmony is being able to efficiently communicate your needs in one specific area to be able to make somewhere else work appropriately. That's not saying that I'm not going to get off of this and go hang out with my kids, because I probably will.
yeah. Hmm.
But in order to make sure business is moving successfully and fluidly, I'm compromising a small amount of my time with my kids and communicating to them that this is what I need to do. And my kids have been able to see through a lot of what I do that there are parts of the day that require sacrifice to make one area successful, and this successful area over here is what's going to allow me to take my kids to the pumpkin patch this weekend. So if I'm not successful in business, then I'm losing out on being able to contribute more to my freedom with my family. So it's more of a give and take, and that's where the harmony comes into play. Is like you give here, and as long as you're communicating those needs and what's happening effectively, then it flows back into over this way.
Love it. Totally love it. Here's my question. Do you think that your family, or let's just kind of put it to your
Give me
husband,
one second.
right?
Okay. Okay.
There goes the harmony right here, right? do
Yeah.
you, Carlin, do you think that your husband requires or desires the same amount of time that you give to your business?
Oh my gosh, that's something that we're desperately trying to work on. We were sacrificing a lot of our quality time. And when I started looking into that and I started noticing that we weren't committing the time that we needed to each other, my business was lacking because I was emotionally drained. I was like, my love tank, I guess, if you've read the five love languages, my love tank was empty. because I was pouring so much into the business and I wasn't pouring enough into my personal relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so having to prioritize our quality time together has been something that we've been putting a lot of emphasis on lately. And so, and actually, thanks to you, I see a lot of the stuff that you and your wife post. I'm like, oh, that's actually a really cool idea. I'd love to go do something like that. So, thank you. Um, my husband has been the backbone of me. He has sacrificed a lot of time to help with various things. Without him, I would not be where I am.
100%. And I feel the same way about my wife. And so here's a philosophy that I'd like to introduce and to talk through because I believe, and you mentioned the five love languages, in business, we have KPIs, right?
Yep.
We have KPIs. And for those who would be watching this, KPIs is called key performance indicators. And those are metrics in business that you measure to get a specific outcome, right? And so for marketing, let's say if you're a real estate investor, there's a certain amount of leads that you need to call, then you'd have a specific amount of conversations that turns into a specific amount of deals, right? So those are the KPI. Now, how much leads or people that you call, let's say that number is 100, to have 20 conversation to get one deal, those are your KPIs, those are your metrics. So here's the thing, here's what I believe. Just like in business, where that number could go up, if it is that it's 100, you need 100 leads to have 20 conversations to get one deal. You go to 200 leads, that would give you 40 conversations to get two deals, right? So it's this number linear thing, right? I believe that we also have love KPIs. I think that every person has KPIs and things that if it is, you said that your cup is filled, you've used that analogy. If that cup is filled, then there's no need for more, right? And so if it is that this cup could only hold a certain amount, let's say it could hold one liter, right? If I try to pour more than 1 liter in here, it's going to overflow. And so I believe this is my wife. She has a liter. If I fill very specifically with the time that we have, what she desires, needs, requires in that liter in a short amount of time, I don't need to spend the entire day with her. And this is something that I've tested, where when I know exactly, and now that I do know exactly what she needs, exactly what she wants, her cup is at 100. So even if we spend 30 minutes together and I spent the entire day doing something else, she's filled. And so in situations like that where I come home and I gotta go jump on a podcast right away, she's okay with doing whatever because his cup is filled. Does that make sense? And so it's knowing the KPIs. And so when you know the KPIs, this is where I say everything gets 100. Nothing gets less than 100. So when I'm at work, work gets 100. When I'm with her, she gets 100. And so I don't do I'm with her, a call is coming in. Hey, let me take this call real quick. It's a seller, it's a this, it's a that. Nope. I'm like, I have to call them back, right? And she gets 100% of my time. And then when I'm at work, I give work 100% of my time. Now, does things come up where she's like, hey, babe, I really need you or whatever for something else? Sure. But it's because my love is filled. My cup is filled. So it's like, I could do that. And so I believe that If it's 100, 100 and 100 on either side is still balanced.
Mhm. Mathematically speaking, it is.
Mathematically speaking. And the fact of the matter is, anytime that number is less, their willingness, ability, understanding, everything drops naturally. So, and you call it harmony, ebbs and flows, and that's true. However, even when we're ebbing and flowing, I know if I use the KPIs and I put more where it needs to be, even when we're in a rough season and I have to put way more time over there, she's still down with me.
So, in perspective, that's interesting. So, mathematically speaking, it is the definition of balance. You still are 100 and 100. That is literally balance. It's just a spin on symbiosis and harmony. So, hindsight 2020, it's all the same thing. It's just perspective on how you are looking at it and the way you're communicating it at that point. So it all again circles back to communication and the way that you're perceiving things.
100%. And I totally agree. It just still allows me to use the word balance.
You're like, that's the important thing here, though.
because and it's because of my perspective, right? I use my perspective as to how I do things to fuel the word that I want to use. And so it's like, and it also is controversial because many people say, hey, there's no balance, you like blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, is that true? Because, and here's the reason why. Here's the reason why I think is really important. And this makes me want to go to my vibe board to show it mathematically, right? Because we know anything that's on the right side of the equal sign in a math equation is the result. Would you say, right?
That yes.
Exactly.
I'm not a mathematician. I made it to pre-algebra, but
listen, I was a C student, so we're good. You're in good company right now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, my favorite letter since grade school has been F.
Isn't it interesting that entrepreneurs, we have low grades but hire really smart people?
Oh, Keston, don't get me. This is a whole different podcast.
It is. So here's what I would do. I'll give a really quick analogy and equation because I think, could you see me? Could you see me?
Yeah, you're in my top right corner.
Top right corner.
I see you. Cool. Yeah, I see you. I see the whiteboard. I see it all.
Okay, awesome. So mathematical equation, let's say 3x minus 1.
Should I get my kid in here? She's doing homework right now.
Equal 11. That's so funny. That's so funny. Let's bring it over here. Okay, so 3x minus 1 equal 11, right? We got to solve for x. So x here would be 3 times 4 minus 1 equal 11. Now, we've all learned PEMDAS when we was going to school, right? Not exponents, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, like that equation. So you got to work out the multiplication first. So 3 times 4 is 12 minus 1 is 11. So that would be 11 equals 11. So this equation is right. And this is an equation that shows balance, right? Like it has to equal for it to be correct. This is balance. Now, why is this important? Because if we did this and we said a new equation and put success over here, then everything that's on the left side of this equation has to equal to success. And so if business is here, if business is here in the equation, what are some of the other things that needs to be in the equation to equal to success?
Is that a rhetorical question, or are you
No,
literally
just
asking me?
name a few things that we need to put on that side. Plus business plus, what would the plus be?
For me, I mean, it is, if we're talking like overall in life, business, for me, having family is success. Having freedom is a large component of most people's idea of success. Um, and freedom is a very broad term. Like, that's, I'm using that word very loosely. That can be
Yeah.
in terms of time, that could be in terms of finances, that could be in terms of marital relationship, whatever it is. That health, yeah, that breaks down into a whole lot of stuff. But um, yeah,
So
friends.
so like all of these things has to be on this side of the equal sign to equal success. Simply because if we did the opposite and you said, well, I'm just going all in my business. Right now, we're in this sensitive state and we got to do blah, 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 and you lost. So I put family, and I would actually add here significant other, because your kids and your significant other, they all need separate attention, right? And so if you
You need to
lost
put self.
self, personal development, self, you're so true, right? If it is that you lost because of your grind and your hustle, you lost your health, would that still equal a success? No, because now you're going to use your success to try to gain back your health, right? If it is that you lost your friends, well, some people would be like, hey, this is just the season I'm in, blah, blah, blah. And so some people may go after their friends, some people may not. Depends on the person, right? If you lost your significant other going after success, would you still feel successful? No. No. Right?
Definitely not.
If you lost your freedom going at, like, do you see what I mean? And so now all of a sudden
100%.
this equation doesn't work because those things aren't there, which is where the balance comes in. Because for the balance, for this equation to work, everything on the left has to equal under what's on the right.
So I think when you go back to the initial question, and I'm gonna break this one down, I suppose. When you're looking at the list that you just created, people are looking at those as individual categories, which technically they are, but they're looking at them as completely different equations. Business equals success, family equals success. They've separated those. Whereas in this situation, we've put all of them on the left side to equal success. So when you're categorizing all of those together, you're filling one cup. So instead of having six different cups over here on the left, you've categorized them and put it into one. And then you have success over here. I think where most people are looking is family equals success, business equals success. And they've separated all these cups. So now in their mind, and myself included, you look at it from, and this conversation is completely, thank you. You're looking at it as, oh, I have to fill each one of these individual cups. Whereas in this situation, all of them compile into one cup to equal the other cup. If that did that make any sense?
It makes 100% sense. And I was looking for the business analogy, but I don't think it's a business analogy. I think it's just something that we say, whatever you put focus on grows, right? Whatever you put
Where
focus
focus
on,
grows.
exactly. So
I have that on my wall.
with that being
Where
said,
focus goes, energy flows.
there you go. With that being said, is it fair to say that all of the things that was on that list does not get the same amount of attention and focus?
Yes and no. So yes, they all deserve the same amount of time and commitment, and they all not time. They all deserve the same amount of energy commitment. That's the way I'm going to phrase that. They deserve the same amount of energy commitment. However, that cup gets filled is a completely different story. I have 4 kids. Each of them requires some sort of different love language to be able to fill their cup. So those are
Mm-hmm.
different commitments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think where people look is when they think balance, they think, how do I do this all in one day? And sometimes your business is going to suffer a little bit because maybe your kids need a little bit more that day. But in order for you to be able to fill your business cup tomorrow, your kids' cup, for me, my kids and my husband and myself come before anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So those cups have to be full,
Yep.
and being able to fill those cups allows me to fill the other cups, and that might take 2 or 3 days. One
Mm-hmm.
part of something, one part of the left side of the equation might suffer a little bit one day, but in me, this isn't a short-term equation, this is a long equation.
Yep.
So success is not going to be an immediate answer. To me, this is like a advanced trigonometry equation where it's going to take pages and pages, and
It
a
is.
lot of work is going to go into it. So, from my perspective, in my opinion, one cup, if you're looking at the left side of the equation, there are little cups that are pouring into this big cup,
Yep.
metaphorically speaking.
Yep.
And one cup may not be filled immediately, but there are other cups that have to be prioritized before I can focus on filling another cup. And I think
I
that's where the choke up of balance comes into play.
and and I absolutely 100% agree with you. Because if we look at it like this, if I'm riding a bike, like when you ride a bike, you're literally distributing your weight, right? Like you're
Hmm.
like this distributing your weight to be able to stay balanced as you ride. And very similarly, life is going to be like that where you're kind of, and to me this is when
Yeah.
sometimes when the cup is a little bit less on one side and you try to bring it back and you bring it back and you bring it back. But here's the thing, what I've seen from the people that I coach is that these things aren't even on their list. Health is not on their list. It's just they eat, and that's what they believe is health. I eat. But what do you mean I got to be healthy? That's a whole different conversation, right? My significant other, oh yeah, no, they support me. What does that mean? They support you. Are they putting up with you or they support you? Right? Like which
The
which
infamous question.
it's right like because if you were to ask some of these people's significant other, they are running really high and hot, just waiting to explode and for that moment to come, and everybody's like, divorce, right? I, I, I'm bringing this up, and it's more on my heart now because some of my clients are going through this
Mm-hmm.
and they're experiencing this, and it's like they're losing their health, they're losing their partners, they're losing all of these different things that we ignore because we're like, well, it's just only for a time, it's only for a time. No, it ain't. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
go down, right? Like I believe the reason why sellers, and I know this from speaking to thousands of sellers, the reason why they don't sell their properties or give their properties to their spouses is because I know that man is handsome, jacked. I'm like, oh man, that's a big dude right
If I got $1 for every time I heard someone say that,
there. I love
I
it.
wouldn't even be here.
So the sellers, they would always say, "Oh yeah, my family, my kids, they don't want anything to do with these properties." And here's what I believe based on speaking to thousands of them. I believe the reason why is because in their pursuit of acquiring the real estate, they try to have harmony. They try to be like, oh, it's only for a period of time. Their kids wanted the time from them, and they're like, I'm busy, I'm trying to do this thing, I'm building this thing for us. And in the pursuit of that, they have now grown up and they're like, why would I want that? Because that symbolizes to me that I'm not going to be able to spend time with my family. I don't want it. And so we end up pushing away our kids, but then we want them to take over the business. But the memory they have of the business is one that makes you be like, I don't want that crap. Like, I want to spend time with my family. I don't want to be always busy, always no time. They don't want it. And it's because of the not giving it attention, not giving it 100% on the calendar as committed, dedicated time for them. And so I think that understanding everyone's KPI for home, in love, in the family is absolutely necessary because that's going to give you more balance than harmony would.
Yeah, makes sense, Tess.
Do you see why I wanted to get on a live? I couldn't share this all on Facebook typing like I don't know how to do that, right? But I could
No, I
explain.
prefer conversations this way.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my perspective, and I'm not saying that I'm right, but the logic of even mathematically and otherwise to me just makes sense. There's nothing to
So,
refute.
no, there's not. It's in my brain, it's like you have harmony in some aspects, but the harmony is what creates the balance, if that
Yes,
makes sense.
yes, exactly. And it's
So, it's all there. It is literally all there. But when you break it down on a very granular level, when you take it and dissect it, literally dissect it, then that's where you're like, oh, okay, there's harmony here. Like harmony in this case would be harmony between the left side. Like, okay, I have harmony between my kids. That's good. Kids in harmony, good thing.
yeah,
Um, but each thing needs poured into to be able to create the balance.
exactly.
So it all kind of folds into each other.
It really does. It really, really does. It's a matter of knowing because now we got to quantify or put something to what harmony means, which is why I'm like, I was going to ask you, how do you define harmony, with like, is harmony them not complaining? Is harmony like what is.
Harmony to me is my kids not killing each other. I haven't figured out the secret sauce to that one yet, but I'll
You
let
know,
you
and,
know.
and with the kids, it's always a wild card, right? Because they're growing, they want different things, and so I totally get that. Um, but it's really understanding each one of them because I believe that just like sellers, we all have motivations. We all have our personal motivations. And it's being able to discover those motivations to assess and now have your KPIs to be like, okay, these are the things that really matter to Jazz, my wife. These are the things that really matter to my son. And so my son don't need more than 30 minutes from me. He don't. After that 30 minutes and his cup is filled, all right, Dad, I'm gonna go play
My
Fortnite.
dad.
Exactly, right? So, but it's a matter of just knowing, and it's the uninterrupted time with him
Oh my
that
gosh,
gets his
it
cup
makes the
filled.
biggest difference.
It makes all of the difference in the world. Because what happens is, what I see some entrepreneurs do is like, hey, I'm going out with my kid. And when I ask the question, what do you do with them when you're with them? What type of conversations do you have? What do you talk about? They're like, what do you mean? It's like, it's a simple question. What do you talk about? Well, we just nothing. They don't know how to engage and have conversations and do these things. And so now it's how do you engage with them so that they know you're here, they know that you're present, they're not seeing you on the phone. And so like you're present, but are you present, right?
Present.
And and so it's one of those things. And I have a community call I gotta jump on right now, but I'm so happy that we were able to connect and talk this through. I feel like we should have a part 2 or 3 or something in this conversation.
Just make a series. It's like there's so many things I want to touch on because the parenting thing specifically, one thing I have learned since my daughters were 2 years old, I did my best when they were two, but the five love languages of children really helped me understand each one of my kids because each one of my kids has very different needs. Like
Hmm.
there is not they no like very different. And without having the understanding, I agree with you. There are things that I could definitely improve on as a parent personally, but understanding where each one of them needs their cup filled has
Yeah.
just been a game changer because the Oakley, the little one that is in here talking to you, he is a physical touch. Like I have
Mm.
to sit on the couch with him for like 45 minutes, an hour, just sit there, hold him. He's happy after that. Loves it.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, versus my second oldest daughter, quality time
Mm.
has to have the quality time very specifically. She likes Minecraft. She wants to show me everything she's building all the time.
Yeah.
I've got one that likes receiving gifts. It's a game changer understanding that. But I know you have your coaching call. I would absolutely love to dig deeper into this because this conversation was so much fun. And it's really cool to see where we were able to find the agreements and find the understanding and the balance. And it was just really great getting to connect with you outside of Facebook comments.
Likewise, likewise. So thanks a lot. This was so spur of the moment, but it was totally worth it, and I'm glad I even asked. So thank you, Carlin, for this time. Guys, if you enjoyed these conversations, I'm going to be doing a whole bunch more, especially in the month of October. Every single day, I'm going to be going live and having conversations for entrepreneurs in different aspects of life, especially high performance, because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Peace.